Hi friends, welcome to Amazon World. So in this video I'll be explaining the topic variance analysis. So first we have to get to understand some of the concepts. So after explaining those small concepts we will get into the main topic. Okay, so I would like to explain these concepts first because this is the important concept which we need when we proceed to the further topics. Okay, so now let's just read. Many of you might not be understanding what is the difference between this budgeted and standard. That is the very first thing you have to first understand when we start learning standard costing. Okay, so now let's see what is it. Budgeted production. What does budgeted production means? Budgeted production is the estimation. That is, we used to plan, right? We used to plan if even before getting into our studies and all, we will plan to how long we are going to learn, to how much hours we'll be going to learn today, likewise. So that is an estimation, and that is what we call as budgeted production. So even before starting the production, we'll have kind of idea in our mind that we are going to produce up to this much quantity, likewise. Okay, so that is what we mean by budgeted production. Now what does actual production mean? Actual production means even though we made a plan, actually there was some variations in the real production happen. That is, for example, I thought that I will be learning for 4 hours a day, but what happened was, due to certain problems, due to certain contingencies, what happened was that I could only study to 3 hours. So that was the actual hours I studied. Okay, so actual production means the real output, that really the output really came. Okay, now let's read, let's just read what is budgeted quantity. Budgeted quantity is likewise only, it is a quantity which we are thinking that we'll be using. That is, I told you what is budgeted production first, right? So for that budgeted production, we will be planning how much quantity will be learned. That is, how much quantity will I require so that I could produce the budgeted production which I have already planned. So that is what we call as budgeted quantity. And now actual quantity. After explaining what is actual quantity, I'll come to standard quantity. Okay, so actual quantity means the quantity of input actually we are using for the actual production. That is really for the actual production we ended up using this much quantity. Okay, so that is what we call as actual quantity. Now let me explain what is standard quantity. You will be having some doubts regarding this budgeted and standard, and that's why I'm explaining this concept at first, because even I had the same doubt. It was due to my faculty's class that he explained it very clearly. So even I like to share this newly learned knowledge with you. So that's why I'm making a video regarding standard costing. Okay, so standard quantity means quantity of input required for actual production. That is, we have already planned the budgeted quantity is what we are planned. That is a quantity which we are thinking that we'll be using for the budgeted production. The actual production have not happened. Even before the day before the actual production happens, we will be thinking that budgeted production is what is going to happen. That is our estimation, that is our expectation. So we have already planned out that we are going to use up to this much quantity so that we could produce a budgeted production, and that is what we call as budgeted quantity. I hope that is clear for you. Fine. Now when the day for the actual production happened, actual production was different. Actual production and actual quantity views was different, but still we have the calculations about budgeted quantity and budgeted production. So what we are doing is that for actual production we are going to take the basis of budgeted quantity or budgeted production. That is, actual production happened, how much quantity should have been taken, how much quantity or how much of input should be required for the actual production if I was going according to the plan of my budgeted production, if I am going on the basis of in the ratio of budgeted production. You might not be able to understand me now, so let me explain this with a small example, so you will get to understand the clear idea. Fine. Okay, here, so this is a question. Okay, so read this question. Budgeted production is 1000 bottle, actual production is 1200 bottle. Okay, budgeted quantity is 500 kilograms. Okay, so for 1000 bottles we are going to use 500 kg. Okay, that is what we have estimated, but actual production was different. Actual production became 1200 bottle, and the actual quantity we used for this 1200 bottle was 550 kilogram. So the question they are asking us to find standard quantity. So how are we going to find standard quantity? This is simple. So standard quantity is equal to, the expectation was we are going to produce 1000 bottle, and for 1000 bottle we have planned out that 500 kgs is what we are going to use. But what happened was 1200 bottles was the actual production. So what should be our actual quantity is what we call as standard quantity. I'm not sure you'll get it or not. Let me explain it now. That is, we thought that we require 500 quantity for our production of 1000 bottle. But what happened? The actual production was different. Actual production was 1200 bottle. So what should have been my actual quantity? If I'm going to, that is if we were going according to our plan, if you are going according to our budget or our expectation, what should have been, or what should be our actual quantity? That will be our standard quantity. Fine. So the answer will be 600 kg. But what happened? We have taken actual quantity as 550 kg. Our standard quantity, that is according to our budgeted production, that is in the ratio of budgeted production, budgeted quantity and budgeted production. We are just following our ratio of budgeted data and multiplying it with the actual production, so that we'll get how much should be our actual quantity in reality if we were going according to our plan. So that would have been 600 kg, right? But actual quantity we have taken is 550 kg. So this is what we call as standard quantity. Hope this concept is clear for you. I took time, so I hope the concept of standard quantity is okay with you. Fine. So variance analysis. So we all know variance analysis. There is lots of cost variances which we learn in variance analysis. So today I will be explaining about material cost variance. So you'll get to understand a clear picture of material cost variance once we start doing the questions. Fine. So let me explain this. So before getting, we all know there are lots of variances like this. Okay, and there will be a lot of easy way to learn the formulas, but I prefer in this way. Okay, after understanding the concepts, we have to understand how the equation or how the formula is going to be derived. Fine. Okay, so that is what we are going to do here. I will be not explaining any shortcuts. I will be explaining the right idea. Okay, fine. Okay, so first, so whenever we are talking about a material, we have to focus on the two major people who is responsible for this material. Who are the two major responsible person once it gets to material? It is production manager and purchase manager. Why? Because production manager is a person who actually estimates that he in the production, the future production we will be using this much quantity. Okay, so he will be expecting, or he will be estimating a particular quantity for the production. Fine. So he will be telling that, for example, he will be using 100 kg for this particular production. Fine. So let me tell you in elaborately. Okay, so the two major responsible person when it gets to material is production manager and purchase manager. Fine. So I am going through an example. See here. So 100 kg, production manager says that we require 100 kg in order to for a particular production. Fine. He is saying that, just estimating, or he's saying that we will be requiring 100 kg for a particular production. So purchase manager said that okay, 100 kg is fine. So in the market it is 15 rupees for 1 kg. Purchase manager told, fine. And when it gets to the actual production, what happened was that production manager said that they actually require 200 kg. They used 200 kg of quantity. So extra quantity was used, right? Extra quantity was used. So this comes under the responsibility of production manager. Production manager told that he will be only using 100 kg but ended up using 200 kg. So 100 kg extra was used. So that will be called as, that is in a loss, right? That is a loss. So that is an adverse situation. Plan that will be using only this much quantity but ended up using more than that. So that is an adverse situation. Fine. So here in this question, if I am asking what is the adverse situation, what will be the result is 100 kg minus 200 kg will be getting minus 100 kg. Okay, we'll say that 100 kg extra was used, 100. So this is adverse situation. And purchase manager told that for 100 kg, okay, from market we'll get it for 15 rupees. But when he actually went to buy, they say that it is 20 rupees per kg. Okay, so this comes under the responsibility of purchase manager. Fine. So 15 minus 20, what happened? 5 rupees for 1 kg loss acquired. So in order to understand what is the total loss actually happened, we have to multiply it with the actual quantity. Material cost variance means simply we can say standard cost minus actual cost. Okay, many of our questions which is provided in our textbook have given a standard cost directly. In some questions they have given us budgeted and we have to find the standard. Fine. Okay, so standard cost minus actual cost is, we can simply say that is material cost variance, and in this material cost variance we will be dividing it into two: material usage variance and material price variance. So this is what I told before, that is the idea of production manager and purchase manager. So production manager is he is in responsibility of using the right quantity, right? He's the one who says that they will be needing up to this much quantity for the particular production, right? So usage, what are that we are going to use? We are going to use the raw material. We are going to use the raw material, quantity of raw material for our production. So that is actually meant by usage. So this comes under the responsibility of production manager. Okay, and this comes under the responsibility of purchase manager. So that is what I've been trying to explain. Fine. So production manager, so in order to see what is the responsibility, what is the loss, what is the situation that comes under production manager, what we have to do? We have to minus this actual from standard, right? So the standard is what we have already budgeted. Okay, so in many of our questions they will be giving a standard. Okay, so let's just assume this 100 kg is standard. Fine. So 100 kg is a standard, but they ended up using 200 kg. So what happened? 100 kg, negative 100 kg came. That means 100 kg adverse situation came where they used extra 100 kg quantity. Fine. Now we have to understand what is the total cost for that. Okay, we got 100 kg. What is the total cost? So in order to get what, we have to multiply. Should we multiply the standard rate or should we multiply the actual rate? We have to multiply this 100 adverse 100 kg with this 15 kg. Why? Because we are talking about the responsibility of production manager. The usage of the materials only comes under the head of production manager, and the changing price doesn't comes under production manager. So that's why will be multiplying this 100 kg adverse with the standard rate, because this comes under the responsibility of purchase manager. Production manager is not responsible for the price change or price variance. So what we have to do, what I'm trying to talk is that whenever there is a hour or quantity variance, we have to multiply it with the standard rate, because production manager is not responsible for the price change. Fine. Okay, so we'll get what is that adverse situation, what is the cost of that adverse situation. Okay, fine. Now when it comes to purchase manager means what? Material price variance. So he is responsible for that. That is, he told that he will be buying it for per kg, he'll get it for 15 rupees, but ended up giving 20 rupees, right, for 1 kg. So what is the total loss that total loss acquired because of him? That is 50 minus 20. We'll get negative 5. We can say 5 rupees adverse came. Extra 5 rupees was given. So that is an adverse situation. Fine. 5 into that, 5 rupees is for 1 kg. We have to understand what is the total loss that acquire. So for that, what we have to do, should we multiply it with standard or actual? But we will be answering it as standard, but it is no. We have to multiply this 5 with actual. Why? When it comes to production manager responsibility, we told that this price change is not the responsibility of production manager. So we actually multiplied standard. But why in case of purchase manager, why we are multiplying it with actual? That is the question, right? So that is because, see, this 5 rupees we got adverse situation, and that is for 1 kg only. We have to see what is the total loss that he acquired, right? So for that, 200 kg is the actual quantity which has been used, right? Which has been bought. Fine. So 20 into 200 we have to do that. We have to multiply this 5 adverse with this 200 kg. That is the actual. We have to understand what is the actual loss. Okay, here we didn't multiply it with 20 because 50, this comes under the head of purchase manager. But here when it comes to the price change, what happened is that here purchase manager told that it could be bought with rupees 15 per kg, but actually bought it for rupees 20 per kg. So 5 rupees loss came, and this 5 rupees is for 1 kg, right? So to know the total loss, we have to multiply it with what? Actual quantity. We have to understand what is the actual loss, so we have to multiply it with my actual quantity. Fine. But here when it comes to this, this is like the quantity which has been bought is under the responsibility of purchase manager. He is the one who's buying the quantity, right? So it comes under his head. But when it comes to production manager, it is not the responsible production manager that the price changes. Fine. So that's why this happens. So production manager has to take responsibility for extra 100 kg used. When we talk about material used in production, the production manager has to come to ML. That is what we have to think when we talk about material is production manager. The usage of material, we have to first think about production manager and his estimation. That is, he told that he will be using only 100 kg, but ended up using 200 kg. So 100 kg adverse came. That is an adverse situation. So in order to understand what is the loss that he acquired, we say that 15 rupees per kg have to be multiplied, because it is not, we are actually focusing on the responsibility of production manager. Okay, responsibility of production manager, and this doesn't comes under the production managers, comes under purchase manager. But when it comes to purchase manager's case, that is, he said that he will be buying it for 50 rupees but ended up using 20 rupees. But extra 5 rupees adverse situation came, right? So that adverse situation came for 1 kg. So how much quantity actually he bought? 200 kg. So in order to see 200 kg is what he bought, that is also under the purchase manager's responsibility. That is what he bought, 200 kg. So 200 kg into that 5. So that after doing this, we'll get the actual loss. Fine. I hope it is clear for you. I'm not sure. There is some limitations to my English, sorry for that, but I'm trying my level best to explain it. Fine. Okay, so this is comes under. So we have explained it with using production manager and purchase manager. So we are getting into the right formula. Okay, so material cost variance includes standard cost minus actual cost. This is easy. We'll get once we start to do the questions. I hope the concepts will be clear. So for now, don't worry. So we are dividing it into two: material usage variance and material price variance. So what we do, that is standard quantity. What did we do here? We subtracted actual quantity from standard, right? 100 kg minus 200 kg and multiplied it with what? Standard rate. So that is what exactly we are doing here. Again, when it comes to purchase manager's responsibility, 15 minus 20, that is standard rate minus actual rate into actual quantity is what we did. Exactly what we have told. Okay, now, so that is about up to this much. Now, when we are focusing on material usage variance, it can be again subdivided. That is material sub-usage variance and material mix variance. Okay. So, for the examples for these two, I'll be explaining it with the questions which has been provided in our study mat. So, there is almost 6 questions provided in our study mat, group 2 study mat illustrations. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These illustrations are regarding material cost variance analysis questions. Okay, fine. So, we'll be explaining about these examples. Instead of giving you examples, it will be easy if you start doing the question. So, material sub-usage variance and material mix variance. This material usage can be again subdivided into material sub-usage variance and material mix variance. So, what does the sub-usage focuses on? Sub-usage means variance due to change in total quantity of materials. That is total. And sometimes in certain questions we will be using 2 or more raw materials. So after we are totaling this raw materials, and we will be totaling the raw materials, the quantity used for the production, and what happens is that we will be subtracting the actual quantity from total actual quantity from the total standard quantity. We'll get a particular amount, and what we have to do with that is I told you there will be 2 or more raw materials we'll be using. So they will be having standard rates and actual rates for that. So standard rate for each raw material have to be considered, and what we have, since we cannot take 2 or more standard rates, what we do is that we'll just average them. Okay, so average standard rate, weighted average standard rate is will be what we'll be using here. So no worries for that. I'll be explaining it with a question. And when it comes to material mix variance due to change in proportion of materials, there will be change in proportion, the mix you can say, that is why it is called as mix, proportion. There will be change in the proportion or mix in the questions. So in certain questions what we have to do, there will be a new character coming out, that is revised standard quantity. So once you ask me what is revised standard quantity, is actual quantity revised in the ratio standard. Actual quantity revised in the ratio standard. That too I'll be explaining with the questions which is being, that too I'll be explaining with the illustrations from our study mat, so no worries. So what we are doing is, I have told you, I forgot to tell you about one thing. Whenever there is quantity or hours variance, always multiply with standard rate. That is, whenever there is quantity inside, see here, inside this bracket, if it is hours or quantity, we have to multiply it with standard rate always. And whenever it is rate or price inside this bracket, we have to multiply it with actual quantity. That is 2 major points you have to keep in your mind. Just read this. whenever there is quantity or hours variance, always multiply with standard rate, because quantity used and hours taken for production comes under the responsibility of the production manager, but rate is not the responsibility of production manager. We have to actually completely focus on the responsibility of production manager. So what we are doing is that we are multiplying it with standard rate or standard price. Fine. Now, whenever there is rate variance, always multiply with actual quantity, okay, or actual hours. Okay, whenever inside that bracket we have price or rate, we have to multiply. Always we have to multiply it with actual quantity or actual hours. Fine, because purchase manager should take responsibility for the quantity being actually purchased. Okay, so see here. So inside here we'll get to see revised standard quantity and actual quantity. So inside bracket, quantity is what inside this bracket. So I have told you, whenever there is quantity or hours inside the bracket, we have to multiply it with standard rate or standard price. So that is what we are doing here. So into standard rate. So we'll get material mix variance, and other characters also there. Material yield variance. So material yield variance is actually like output. You know, yield means output, right? So there is a simple tip I have to like to say, that is, answer for this material yield variance and material sub-usage variance will be always same. Even though the equations or formula is different, we'll get the same answer for this too. Okay, so that also we'll be explaining with the help of the illustration. Yield variance, when it comes to material yield variance, let's just talk about the equation here. Standard output from actual input. Actual input, when we are putting in actual input, what is the standard output we'll get minus actual output. We'll be not understanding what is being told here, but no worries. As I told you, I'm repeating it 100 times, but still just want to say there is nothing, but just keep in your mind these things. Okay, we'll be using them in the questions. I'm just giving you a brief introduction for the variance analysis topic. Fine. So I have told you, whenever we have output or quantity, we have to multiply it with what? Standard rate. So that is exactly what we are doing here. So in every formula, we are actually following these two major points. You have to keep in your mind this one and this one. Okay, keep a note or keep a note on your own language in a way that you understands them. Okay, so we'll be explaining the illustrations of the material cost variance, material variance analysis in the upcoming videos. Thank you for watching and rock your studies.